Greetings, this is Tantus Narravan Dracovin, your Lord and Emperor here at the Dracovin Empire, and welcome one and all again. How is everybody doing today? I hope you're doing well, whether you're joining me, of course, live over on Twitch, which will be over there on the side, or later on over on YouTube. Hello to all of you. For you guys on the YouTube side, remember, please appease the dark algorithm and like, subscribe, ring the bell, that kind of jazz, just to, keep it in line. Today's question, though, for all of you, for all the comments in either location, is have you played Ysoki, a Ratfolk? Because I certainly haven't played one, but I believe I've been in a game with someone that's played one before. But hard to remember all the characters. A lot of different ones. But shall we dive into this interesting ancestry on Golarion? Yes, we shall. Alright, let's start with the main place I like to talk about these things, book sources. Because then I'm going to start preferencing some things a little bit here as we get into the true discussion. But if you want to do some more research, I do recommend starting with the Distance World books, as I actually moved myself over in the corner there. That's some place that has some information along with Dragon Empire, Gazetteer. I never said that correctly. Anyway, both of those do have some preliminary information. But if you want a deep dive, especially for 2nd edition, Advanced Player's Guide from 2nd edition, and the Ancestry Guide from 2nd edition. Now, I'm going to say here, before we get started, this is definitely a Ancestry because it already has been developed on its own to a good degree in early 2nd edition, that I doubt we're going to have any kind of major changes in the core rules, and there hasn't been any suspected as of yet. So, we're not going to see anything much different from what we already have. We've already kind of developed and gotten them beyond kind of basics which existed within, the stuff that came from D&D. They are unique and on their own, and a thing. Okay, cool. So, probably not going to have to revisit this one. Ysoki. They are commonly known as the Ratfolk, but they are people that are small humanoid rats. They tend to be both itinerant merchants and scavengers in the cities of other species. So, similar to a lot of rodents, they are very well adapted to finding these small places and adapting. Adaptability is a heavy aspect of these beings. If you see one, they only stand about 4 feet tall, weigh about 80 pounds. They have whiskered snouts and long, scaly tails, just like your common rats. In cities, they do wear heavy robes to conceal their rodent-like features. They know they tend to unnerve other species sometimes, so it does also, it depends on where they're at, too. If it's a place where there's a disposition against rodents, yes, they're going to hide. If not, people a little more open. Contrary to the common stereotype about being dirty and diseased, Ysoki are instinctively clean. They're also sometimes accidentally mistaken for Wererats, which can be another issue. In that case, they're treated with fear unless they have a chance to correct this misidentification. So it's sort of like, yes, the rodent-like features, certain societies might not like rodents, and then also the fact that wererats are a thing can also cause some misgivings and some hesitation or fear, distrust, unnerving, a lot of negative ideas. Ysoki themselves might take up the adventuring life to explore, to travel, defend a family or community. There's various reasons that they would. They have natural wit and nimble fingers, make them excellent things like alchemists and rogues, and plenty of them specialize in ranged weapons if they become fighters or rangers. They just have a little bit of proclivity for those directions. Now, they are communal by nature. They tend to live in colonies of up to 100 adults, and thrive on the proximity and contact with each other, even in tight spaces. They make their homes either on the road in traveling caravans, in the sewers and slums of large cities, or in subterranean caves. Their warrens are complex enough to hide their hoards or escape from enemies. Ysoki merchants will trawl markets for intriguing items, which they value over money. So, yes, they do have a proclivity to this is something interesting. They have affinity for all other kinds of rodents, too, including rats, giant rats. They excel at tinkering and alchemy, and often will protect their homes, their lairs, or even their creations with things like traps and bombs. They're also known to tame and use giant fleas as mounts, or possibly giant rats. Ysoki merchants regularly dispatch large caravans that travel widely for at least a year before returning home. During this time, they do make an effort to learn new things from other people or collect interesting goods to be brought home. So it's something that, like, oh, this is really interesting. People would want to, my people would want to see this, or that's something that's interesting to find out about. My people would want to know about this. Ysoki also excel at fighting in cramped spaces along their kin. Physically, they do tend to be a little weaker than your average ancestor, but they are extremely loyal to their kin and notorious for avenging fallen family members. Threatening one individual is a surefire way to rally a whole community against you. And though not known for their trickery, they do take great pride in their professionalism when dealing with others. Ysoki are not above using their size and numbers to outwit or outmaneuver an enemy when threatened. So, again, that entire idea of trickery and stuff like that, it's a misconception. They aren't really experts on it. Sometimes, you gotta be ready for it. I do like the rat-mounted Ratfolk. So the largest population of Ysoki and Golarion is in the dark lands of Tian's Sea, where they rule over the empire of Daiguodashu and the caravans in the caverns of Sekamina. Try not to butcher them today. Trying not to. These Ysoki declared war on the Imperial Longhua in 4251 and seized a dozen cities before the Imperial army drove them back into the depths and sealed the entrances to the Darklands behind them. Other large numbers dwell in Deep Market, a subterranean city located far between Goka and the city of Whistling Swords, a ruined Tengu city in Huanlai. Ular K in Kazmaron also counts Ratfolk among many of the non-human inhabitants of the Forest District. In the Inner Sea region, they're commonly found in more arid and flat parts of human nations, including Druma and Kaptesh. Tribes of more primitive Ysoki live on the western edge of the Dirt Sea in the holds of Belkazin. A settlement called Chitterhome can also be found in the Selling Hills of Numeria, where they eagerly scavenge for technological wonders and weapons from the ruins there. So much like humans, Ysoki are very adaptable, and wherever they find themselves. They prosper. Their prosperity for following wherever the flow of trade and commerce takes them has spread them across the world. So there are a variety of cultural groups. Among the most notable of these cultural groups that we can define, and we'll talk about a few of them here, the Belkazin Creepers. They're isolated, fearsome Ratfolk culture that lives in sign, though not in harmony with the orcs of Belkazin. They're a little bit more muscular from your average Ysoki. From the ever-shifting shapeshift, secret sands, the Dirt Sea on sled skibs, tawny-colored fur, and renowned for wearing skull masks designed to inspire fear in the orc neighbors. Again, they tend to be isolationist and much larger warrens than average, that wind beneath islands of rocky land, which kind of protrude from the Dirt Sea. And they actually are very good fighters against the unique undead that are active only in and around the Dirt Sea. They also tend to be very religious, and their clerics aid in the endless fight against these undead. The central figure of the mythology is a unique divine entity known as the Hollow Rat, who excavates near endless tunnels beneath the surface of Golarion to either, depending on the tale, hinder or aid the escape of the caged deity Rovagok. So, it depends on who you're saying it. They also worship a unique local incarnation of Lao Shu Po, which they call Lor Shan, the nature god Gozareth, and the orc fertility goddess Dretha. The Digodashun Underminers are, of course, the most numerous of the heritages and live on or below Tianzi. They generally have black or gray fur covering their bodies. They have longer whiskers than normal and red eyes than your average Ysoki, both of which help navigate their homes in no total darkness. Those rich enough to decorate their clothing with gold or expensive jewelry will do so, and their tails with bright ribbons of fine cloth. They do live in the Darklands, mostly, made of militaristic clans, and compose their culture even more close-knit than other Ysoki cultures. They have loyalty to their clans and those of whom they are closest, and are strongly antagonistic to those who fall outside their group. They're also strongly resentful of surface-dwelling species, seeing those that live beyond the Darklands as unfairly blessed with much easier lives than their own. Those surface dwellers that can overcome this initial distrust can earn the loyalty and can find them one of the most loyal companions. They've been influenced by their culture has been influenced by their approach to religion, which they view as very transactional, exchanging worship of deities and other entities for design boons or assistance. The one exception is Lao Shupo, known as Grandmother Rat, who has a strong influence in their society. She stole her divinity, and the Daigo Dashum Underminers follow her example, taking what they want from life and disregarding the harm they do to those outside their inner social circle. The Drumish Dasher is the group most associated with the Avastian area, and Ratfolk at large. They tend to be the ones that people think of, because those in the inner sea region. They have brown fur that ranges in shades from being beige to dark top. They're not particularly ostentatious in dress and manner, and most who can afford to wear at least have one piece of jewelry or accessory designed to dazzle or catch the eye. They're named for the merchant nation of Druma. They live across a lot of the inner sea regions, from River Kingdoms to Capatesh. They follow the markets and centers of trade. They're sociable, inquisitive, fiercely intelligent. They're where you get the alchemists, bards, clerics, wizards of them. And most tend to be cautious with their money, avoiding ostentatious displays of wealth and instead keeping it well hidden. Those are kind of average. Alright. Next, we have the Goken Hopper. They are the group that lives in the western deserts of Tianzi and amongst the shadows of the Wall of Heaven Mountains. They're desert-dwelling and mountain-dwelling. They're known for their unique gait. They have much larger feet than your average Ysoki, and bound across the open sounds kind of like more kangaroo than rat or human. They normally have light sandy-colored fur, and for those that live in the desert, those that live in the mountains or the highlands have a uniquely eye-catching blend of black and white patches. Fashion from them wild verily, from contemporary Tian clothes to quilted coats, all the way to tattered rags for those that delve in darklands and imitate the Kalkini. They're named for Goka, the City of Wonders, where many live in subterranean sections of Deep Market. Beyond that, they're also across the Changguan Desert, the Wall of Heaven Mountains, and the Darklands just below those areas. They have hunger for novelty and experiences, and believe that fate smiles on those that try to live at the borders of new and unknown. They love gambling and trade, kind of impulsive. A smaller culture that we can mention is the Minatan Skimmers, who live across the wandering isles of Minata. They're a boat-bound culture, and these Ysoki spend their lives on the floating boat homes. Some of them have never set foot on land. A rarer one there. The Numerian Tinkerers are an experimental culture of Ysoki who do our tinkering, and of course, dealing with the remnants of the Rain of Falling Stars that are in Numeria. They look quite similar to the Drumish Dasher, but they tend to have some molted, patchy fur. They also are renowned for having particularly bright eyes. So, very close to the Drumish Dasher. They're named for being in Numeria, of course, where they're most common of all. The alien menaces, starship stuff, all the kinds of things there. Even with these potential threats, they love the technology and invention that are there. The average tinkerer has endless projects they kind of move between. whether innovating some new technology, scavenging hidden alien objects, concocting defenses for their homes. They're very protective of their warrens, and particularly the de facto capital of Chitter. And instead of allowing others access, they often travel to numerous marketplaces selling their restored tech. They've innovated significant developments in medicine, alchemy, and all branches of alien study, but their exposure to alien technology has caused them to birth an unusually large number of sorcerers. Interesting. Another smaller group is the Sarki Tunnelers, or Ysoki, who live in and below the trade city of Ulinkar and Casimir. They love trade, have carved up a niche of the city centered around commerce, knowledge, and catering to the city's most monstrous residents. And finally, the last of the cultural groups is the Ulfin Leapers, a hardy, bulky breed of Ysoki who live in the frozen northern reaches of Bastion along its western coast. Can't say coast today. They're taller, broader than your average Ysoki. Their fur is adapted to the northern climates and tends to be brown, gray, or snow-white in color. They live in many of the same locations as their namesake Ulfin neighbors across Frozen and Bastion. They're particularly common in Kalasgard and further south of the pirate city of Riddleport. Their affinity for sailing sometimes takes Ulfin Leafers as far as the Shackles or Western Grun, or as far east as Sarkonis Scar, formerly the place known as Worldwound. They're renowned for their deftness and agility, particularly as climbers. Among their freezing mountainous homes, they use this nimbleness to skitter along narrow paths and across cliff faces. They're also comfortable amongst the rigging of ships. They have a strong love of sea and sailing. They have a contradictory reputation as both stealthy sneak thieves and brash, loud brawlers, desperate to prove themselves against foes twice their size. In combat, they favor fighting from above, ambushing enemies who never notice them before they're struck. It's too late. On distant planets, you can find Ysoki, because they're not only on Golarion. Akaton, the red planet, is home to a Ysoki community that are physically almost identical to their relatives in Golarion, despite being worlds apart and having thousands of years of their own distinct history. Small and timid, the Ysoki are equally adapted to the open desert, the strange Formian honeycomb caves sometimes found in the deepest trenches of the planet, and the major human cities where they tend to gravitate towards slums. Right now, as tinkerers, scavengers, hoarders, traders, and pickpockets, they're cunning and resourceful, and shown particular talent in disassembling and repurposing technology. And thanks to cross-planetary trade facilitation by a network of portals linking the two worlds, many Ysoki have actually spread to the green planet Hasturm, too. So you can find on other planets in the Golarion solar system, Akaton and Castleville, Ysoki. But that is it for Ysoki today. I hope you enjoyed learning about them, the Ratfolk as they are sometimes called. Because, yes, they are rat people. And it's an unfortunate thing that, yes, similar to other various ancestries that might gain initial prejudices because of their form, especially in areas where they are not common, Ysoki suffer the same way. If they are not found in an area particularly, they're a rat person. That could come from distrust of the idea of rat, or, fear of wererats, which is a problem in some places too. You never know when a lycanthrope rat person will be very violent and deadly towards you, and you kinda have that distrust. But still, Ysoki and their family units, which are very important to them, and do trade. That's a big part of a lot of their cultures. Trade, merchants, traveling. It's an interesting thing that the majority of them, even those that are a little bit more militant or different, have this level of travel, whether through trade or other reasons. They enjoy traveling out to the world and then returning to their families. And whatever they find, using it to secure their families more. Whether it's tinkering with some kind of ancient technology, coming back with some kind of secret, coming back with something that you bought, or coming back with some materials that you conquered, in case of the Undermines. There's a lot of reasons to go out there, and it's all about strengthening their own communities. So you can see there's some very unique versions of all of this. Unique places. And, yes, Of course, we have to keep in mind, they are probably connected to Lao Shupo, the Tian goddess who was a rat who stole her divinity by feasting on a slain corpse in a view. And yes, outside of Tianzi, you don't really see the same connections, but certainly things like that, other divine sources, do exist within their culture. That's a pretty big one in the lot. And you see, it's not just in Tianzi, Elkers and Creeper also worship a version of that. Meaning it can be in the Vastian ideals. They are also interesting, some humans and certain other species are across multiple planets in the Golarion solar system. Have been portals. Certainly in Golarion, people don't really know about the portals as much, don't really use them as much. They're something that's kind of lost with time. The other planets are more connected, and we have Ysoki here. Certainly speaking, you can still be Ysoki from a distant planet that found themselves on Golarion, or one of these various cultural groups on the planet. It gives a lot of interesting options. Anyway, I'll leave it there for today. I hope you enjoyed learning about Ysoki, the Ratfolk of Golarion. I will be doing, of course, more videos like this in the future. You can always check them out. You can join me live if you want to learn tabletop lore or mechanics or anything like that on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays over on Twitch. Usually early to mid-afternoon. You'll have to check out my Discord or other social medias for the exact time I go live. Life stuff is. Saturday's a backup day, and those other tabletop stuff that I will do that you can find out about and check out on YouTube if you can't join me live. Crimson Queen live play Pathfinder 1st Edition on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. And of course, discussing tabletop on Saturdays at 6 EST for all those times. We talk about news of the week on that show and deep dive into interesting tabletop-related discussions that are there to assist people in improving their playstyle in the games. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I've shouted out all my stuff. You can always check me out on either side. I hope you enjoyed today and learning all about this. And we'll talk about more ancestors, more glaciers on Golarion, more tabletop topics in the future. Until that time, until next time, I bid of all of you out there a deep and wonderful farewell.